God heard my prayer of contrition. God heard my prayer of weakness and of human failure. But I cannot explain to you the emptiness that I have felt for the last 3 days. The total desolation of my spirit. This is what happens when we turn our back on God and start to walk away. And the closer we are to God, the closer we are in His fellowship, the worse it is. And I pity the man who can turn his back and experience that feeling and still yet walk away. I feel like there is no hope for him. But today, I was out and about, and even though I do not take part in anything, many times I like to be among a crowd. I think my best, I meditate my best, and the Lord seems to be able to communicate with me. Now, that's not to say that He does not communicate at night, in the evening time when things are quiet, but He can also communicate in that way. And I felt the Lord telling me that man still does not fathom what is coming very soon upon this earth. You have no way of knowing, because there has never been a cataclysm like this. Now, I am not an educated man. The only wisdom and the only knowledge that I have come from God. But I do know one thing. I know the feeling of dread. I know the feeling of fear. I have always been afraid of perishing in a drowning situation. And in June, I had not only pneumonia, but I had a mild heart attack. And my lungs had filled up with fluid because of the malfunction of my heart. And I felt I was drowning. The fear that came upon me was stone cold, was profound, was dark, and it was evil. It seemed to have a personality all its own. And I fear there is coming a time, very soon. I would not be surprised not to see this year finish out, because I feel many times what God feels as far as His loathing and revulsion as to what man is doing to himself. And God is saying in His heart, as He said before Noah's flood, the end of man has come before me. I will not always suffer with man. I will not always strive with him, for he too is flesh. And that time, I feel very strongly, has come. And as I said, God has impressed me that man, saved and unsaved, are not connecting with reality as to what is coming. Death on a massive scale. destruction on a massive scale. And this is not death by firing squad or death by fire. It is death by supernatural means. There are going to soon be creatures upon this earth that you cannot imagine exist. They have existed in the pit of hell all of this time, waiting for this hour. I say this because everyone who is under the sound of my voice, everyone who is not under the sound of my voice, is in peril. Let me repeat that. You are in peril. When the earth splits and the waves of the ocean are so high that they almost cover every bit of land that's before it. And I'm not talking about a worldwide flood. I'm talking about something like the islands that I'm in right now, the Philippines. Totally gone. Totally gone. Never to rise above the waves again. Now, this will not happen to every country, but God has His times reserved for the judgment of fallen man. And I have seen tremendous evil here in the islands. I have seen evil that has been entertained since the World War, where terrible, terrible suffering and death were placed upon this people. And they did not pray their way out. They accepted the wives' tales, they accepted the old superstitions, and they intermingled them with the traditions of their religion. And now the time is set for the destruction of a people. I cannot tell you what I feel in this hour. The Bible said that God will give power to one of the angels over a third of the earth. That's over 2 billion people. Can you imagine the death of 2 billion people in such a short span of time? There will be no one to bury the dead, because those that are left behind will be in shock. And then comes the judgment upon the earth. The ones that you read in Revelations, if you've read them. But do not think for 1 minute that life will continue on as it has since the beginning. Do not think that tomorrow will be just like today, or the next day, or the next day. Because when we make those assumptions, we are in danger of being swept away. God help us get right. God help us set our house in order. God help us to shore up the weak places in our lives, to pray for strength, to pray for understanding, to pray for compassion for the lost and the dying. For when it starts, there will be no let up. There will be no quick fix, because it's in the hands of a supernatural God now. And the world had rejected his Son. The world had killed his Son. And the world had trampled his sacrifice under their feet. His goodness was mocked. His grace was turned aside. His mercy was ignored. Can you imagine the wrath that is to come? God bless you. Keep looking up. For I don't know how much time we have left. Maranatha.